What do you do for a living? You know, it sounds like such a simple question, doesn't it?
It really does. But wow, it opens up a whole world.
Exactly. How we see ourselves, how others see us, the whole landscape of work.
Yeah.
So today on the deep dive, we're really getting into that. Not just the answers people give, but the language they use.
The stories they tell with it.
And what that tells us about their professional lives. It's fascinating stuff.
It really is. And we're going to start by looking closely at a specific conversation, sort of dissecting it.
Okay.
Picking apart the cues, the things people say, when they introduce what they do. And then we'll zoom out a bit. Look at the bigger picture. Finding a job. Growing in a career.
The whole journey.
The whole journey. We've got some great dialogue examples and lots of insights from our sources. It should really give you a clearer view on your own work life, too.
Right. And our mission, like always, is to pull out those key insights, the surprising bits of truth about how we think about work, talk about it, and, succeed in it.
Giving you that shortcut to being really informed.
Maybe even give you a new way to answer that question yourself next time someone asks. Ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
So, okay, first things first. Asking the question. How do people normally do it?
Well, the sources point out that something simple like, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Works really well. It's direct but natural.
Right. Or even more casual, like, hey, how's it going? Sometimes the topic just comes up then.
Exactly. They feel like normal, polite ways to start that conversation, not too stiff or awkward.
Yeah, makes sense. And the sources give us this brilliant scene right away.
Oh, yeah. This is good.
Picture this. Caroline and her boyfriend, Greg, they bump into Jessica and her husband, Arthur, maybe at a party or something.
Right.
And Greg, he doesn't hesitate. Jumps right in with this very detailed intro about his job.
Very detailed is putting it mildly. It's quite the description. He says he's the VP of Quality and Safety for a top Fortune 500 food company.
Wow.
Yeah. And think about the words he uses there. VP, Vice President, instantly signals hierarchy, right?
Mm-hmm. Power.
And Fortune 500, that tells you it's one of the biggest U.S. companies. Huge scale.
So he's not just giving a title, he's layering on the prestige immediately.
Precisely. It's like a strategic move. Establishing credibility, importance, all in one sentence. A kind of verbal shortcut to status.
Yeah, you can almost feel the weight of that description hanging in the air.
Totally.
And then Jessica turns to Arthur, probably expects something similar,
Yeah, another corporate spiel maybe.
And she asks him the same simple question, what do you do for a living?
And Arthur.
His reply, just 5 words, almost at the punchline. Oh, I'm a Top Gun pilot.
Boom. Mic drop, right?
Totally.
And that contrast is just fascinating. Greg's long, formal corporate description versus Arthur's super brief, super impactful one. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
About what they're trying to communicate.
Exactly. What's the intention?
Yeah.
Greg wants to convey responsibility, hierarchy, using business language.
Right. Standard corporate playbook.
Arthur, though, he taps into something else entirely. Cultural recognition, the cool factor, the excitement of Top Gun.
It's like branding versus explaining.
Perfectly put. It's branding. So what does each approach tell us? Not just about the job, but about how they see themselves in that job.
That's a really good question. Okay, let's unpack Greg's language a bit more then. He didn't just stop at the title.
No, he went on. He used some specific vocabulary to describe what he does.
Right, like implement. He said, I implement policies and procedures nationwide.
Okay, implement. What does that signal?
Well, it means to put into action, right? But using it like that nationwide, it sounds very active, very leadership focused.
Yeah, it's a power verb in that context. He's not just doing tasks. He's driving things, executing big corporate directives across the whole country.
Huge scope.
Massive.
Yeah.
And then there's the word policies.
Which he's implementing.
Right. Policies are, the formal rules and regulations of a company. So implementing them nationwide, that speaks volumes about the complexity and the level of authority he has.
Managing rules across different places, ensuring everyone follows them, that sounds heavy.
It is. Definitely a heavy responsibility.
Okay, what else? He mentioned oversee.
Yes, oversee. He oversees daily operations of our quality control for the entire East Coast.
So oversee isn't just watching.
No. It implies supervision, yes, but also ultimate accountability, making sure everything's running correctly, meeting standards across the whole East Coast.
Again, the scale is huge.
Exactly. It really conveys the breadth of his management role.
And the human side of that, he mentions employees.
He does. He says, I have 1,500 employees under me.
Under me. That's pretty direct language for hierarchy.
It is. It clearly communicates a structure, a chain of command, and just the sheer number of people he's responsible for, their work, their performance.
1,500 people. Wow.
That's a lot.
And there was that little side note about Caroline, his girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
The source mentioned she is always going on about him at the office.
Going on about someone? Meaning she talks about him a lot? Maybe boasts a little?
Seems like it. So his corporate status isn't just something he presents. It's reinforced by others, too.
Good point. It builds the persona. So if you put all those terms together, implement, policies, oversee, under me, what do you get?
It's more than just a job description, isn't it?
Much more. It's a carefully constructed narrative.
Building an image of influence, control, corporate power.
Exactly. And understanding that vocabulary helps you see how people strategically use language to, well, define who they are professionally, to position themselves.
Okay, so let's zoom out from Greg and Arthur for a minute. What does this tell us about jobs in general? Why is talking about work so important in conversations?
Well, it's a huge part of our identity for many people, isn't it? It's often one of the first things we ask or share.
Yeah, it's a way to connect, to find common ground, or just figure out someone's place in the world, maybe.
Sort of. When you say your job title, like I'm a teacher, you often add a bit more, I work at a school. It gives context.
Right. Or if you're not currently working, you might say, I'm looking for a job, or I'm a student.
Or distinguish between part-time and full-time. These are all standard ways we navigate that self-introduction piece.
It's like a social ritual.
It is. And a really important point from the sources is this idea that, every job is special. Every job contributes something to society.
That's a nice way to put it. It's easy to forget that sometimes.
It is. We might see some jobs as more glamorous or important, but really, society functions because of this huge variety of roles. They all fit together.
Like an ecosystem.
Exactly like an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And people choose jobs for all sorts of reasons, right? Not just money. Maybe they want to help people or work with their hands, or they prefer quiet work versus being really active.
So many different motivations.
Absolutely.
Our sources actually break down different job categories, which is helpful. They talk about the essence of these roles.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Like the service industry. Cashiers, waiters, hairdressers, it's very customer focused, right? Needs friendliness, speed.
Very much so. They're often the face of a business, the people we interact with daily. Keeps things running smoothly.
Then healthcare. Doctors, nurses, pharmacists. Huge responsibility there, often long hours.
Definitely. Driven by that core mission of keeping people healthy.
Yeah.
Takes incredible knowledge and compassion.
And education. Teachers, librarians, focused on learning, growth.
Requires so much patience and the ability to explain things clearly, inspiring people to learn.
What about transportation? Bus drivers, delivery drivers, pilots like Arthur, maybe?
Maybe. That's all about moving people and goods safely. Needs carefulness, following rules, reliability. So much depends on them.
Then you have office jobs, answering phones, emails, customer service, computer stuff.
Often quieter, desk-based work. Needs organization, collaboration, and increasingly good tech skills. The operational heart of many companies.
Okay, construction. Electricians, plumbers, builders.
Very physical work, often outdoors. They build the actual infrastructure around us. Need skill, safety focus, problem solving on the spot.
And entertainment. Actors, musicians, athletes.
That often takes years of practice. Dedication, they bring joy, relaxation, inspiration to others.
Definitely. Farming, too. Growing our food, raising animals.
Foundational work. Hard physical labor, often starting super early, dealing with weather, provides our basic needs.
And finally, technology. Programmers, IT support. A huge and growing field.
Absolutely. Working with machines, solving complex problems, building the digital world we live in. Innovation is key there.
Wow, when you list them like that.
You really see the variety, don't you? And how each type contributes something unique and necessary. It's this intricate web. The success of one area often relies on all the others working well.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, I think. Moving beyond the types of jobs to the how. How do people actually find a job, get hired, and then, succeed and grow?
Right, the practical journey. And it's definitely not always a straight line these days. It requires real strategy.
See, why do people even look for jobs? The obvious answer is money.
Sure, earning a living is fundamental, but it's often more than that. People want to follow their interests, learn new things, feel like they're contributing something.
Find meaning.
Find meaning, exactly. Or find a work environment that just fits them better personally. It's complex.
So the actual process, finding a job, Step one seems to be figuring out what you want.
Yes, but it's more strategic than just what am I interested in. You need to think about your skills, yes, but also what the market needs. Where are the opportunities?
Aligning your strengths with what's actually in demand.
Precisely. Then step two is finding those opportunities. Online job boards are one way, sure.
But networking is huge too, right? Talking to people, friends, family.
Absolutely crucial. So many jobs aren't even advertised publicly. You hear about them through connections. Using professional sites like LinkedIn effectively is key now too.
Or even just walking into a business sometimes.
Can still work for certain roles. Then step three, applying. That means putting together a resume.
Which is your work, history, skills, education.
Right. But not just listing them. You need to tailor that resume. Use the key words from the job description. Show how your experience matches their needs.
And the cover letter.
That's your chance to show some personality.
Oh.
Explain why you want this specific job and why you're a great fit. It's not just repeating the resume. It's making your case, showing your value.
It sounds like a lot of work just to apply.
It is. Finding the right job takes real effort, strategic thinking, and often patience. You have to keep refining your approach because the job market changes.
Okay, so you've applied and hopefully you get called for an interview.
The next hurdle. The interview is where you go from paper to person.
It's not just answering questions like, why do you want this job, or what are your strengths, is it?
No, it's more of a two-way street now. Yes, you answer their questions, often using examples to show your skills. That's the behavioral interview part.
Like, tell me about a time you solved a problem.
Exactly. But you also need to ask your own questions. Smart questions about the role, the team, the company culture. It shows you're engaged and thinking critically.
And presentation matters too, right? Being polite, dressing appropriately, being on time.
Absolutely. First impressions count. And following up afterwards, a brief thank you note or email can make a real difference.
Okay, so after the interview, maybe you get a job offer.
Hopefully. But getting the offer isn't always the end of it. Sometimes there's negotiation.
Right, and then there's the contract.
Very important. The contract details everything, your duties, hours, salary, benefits. You need to read it really carefully.
Understand what you're signing up for. Things like non-compete clauses, too.
Yes, or intellectual property rules. All the fine print matters for your future career. Don't be afraid to ask questions before signing.
Good advice. So you've got the job. Now you have to actually start. What's key then?
The first few weeks or months are critical for setting the tone. Listen carefully, follow instructions, make an effort to meet your coworkers.
Show up on time, work hard, be reliable from day one.
Definitely. Be proactive in understanding the team and the company culture. Don't just be nice. Actively contribute.
And what if you don't get the job after the interview? It happens.
It happens a lot. The key is not just to feel bad and give up. Try to learn from it. If possible, ask for feedback.
Why didn't I get it? What could I improve?
Exactly. See it as data. Use that feedback to do better next time. Every application, every interview is a learning experience.
That makes sense. Treat it like refining your approach.
Yeah. And remember, most people change jobs multiple times in their lives. It's normal.
Why do people change? Better pay? New challenges?
All of the above. Or maybe they want a different work-life balance, or the company culture isn't a good fit anymore. Or they've learned new skills and want to use them.
So being able to adapt, learn new skills, that's crucial for managing your career over the long term.
Absolutely. It's not just about getting one job. It's about managing your overall career portfolio, staying relevant, and navigating those transitions effectively.
Okay, so you're in a job. How do you actually succeed? How do you grow? It's not just about showing up, right?
Definitely not. The sources highlight some really key behaviors and mindsets for genuine success and growth. It's quite strategic.
So less of a checklist, more like core themes.
Exactly. Let's touch on a few. First, proactive ownership.
Meaning
You don't just do what you're told carefully and on time. That's the baseline. Ownership means anticipating needs, asking clarifying questions, taking initiative, looking for ways to improve things, treating your responsibilities as if it's your own little business within the company.
Okay, taking real responsibility. What's next?
Effective communication. And that's broad. It's listening actively, not just waiting to talk. It's speaking clearly and concisely. It's writing professional emails to get the point across respectfully.
How you communicate really shapes how people see your competence, doesn't it?
Hugely. Third theme, reliability and dependability.
Right.
Sounds basic, but it's fundamental. Being on time, meeting deadlines, doing what you say you'll do. If there's a delay, you communicate it early. People need to know they can count on you.
Builds trust.
Builds massive trust. Fourth, A positive, solution-oriented attitude. Things go wrong. Challenges come up. How do you react? Do you complain, or do you focus on finding solutions? Being helpful and friendly makes a big difference to teamwork, too.
Okay, so ownership, communication, reliability, attitude. What about skills?
Crucial. Continuous learning and adaptability. The world changes, jobs change. You have to keep learning to stay relevant.
How do you do that? Ask your manager for new tasks, take courses.
All of that. Ask for stretch assignments, take online courses or workshops, read industry news. Be curious. Show that you're invested in growing your capabilities. It makes you more valuable.
Makes sense. And relationships at work.
Building good relationships. Being kind, respectful, supportive of your coworkers and managers. Good teamwork makes everything easier and more effective. You don't have to be best friends, but professional courtesy and collaboration are key.
What about feedback? Sometimes that's hard to hear.
It can be, but receiving feedback well is a superpower. Listen with an open mind, even if it's critical. Try to understand the message. Ask clarifying questions. Thank the person, and then actually try to use the advice to improve.
Seeing it as a gift for growth, not an attack.
Exactly. And maybe even asking for feedback proactively shows you're serious about getting better.
Which can lead to promotions.
Potentially. Promotions often come when you're excelling in your current role and you show potential for more. Handling your job well, showing initiative, expressing interest in growth that paves the way.
There's also talk about work-life balance. How does that fit into success?
It's vital for sustainable success. You need to manage your energy. Take breaks. Have interest outside work. Spend time with loved ones. Burning yourself out isn't a path to long-term growth. It leads to exhaustion and mistakes.
Finding that healthy boundary.
And finally, sometimes growth means changing jobs. If you've learned all you can, or you need a new challenge, or the conditions aren't right anymore, making a strategic move can be part of your growth plan. But plan it carefully.
So, putting it all together.
Success and growth aren't accidents. They take consistent effort, deliberate practice of these habits. Ownership, communication, learning, relationships, resilience. It's an ongoing process.
But developing these habits leads to better opportunities, more satisfaction.
Absolutely. It's about actively crafting a career that's not just successful, but fulfilling and adaptable over the long haul.
Wow. We've really covered a lot of ground today. We started with that one simple question, what do you do?
Yeah, from Greg and Arthur's introductions.
Right, to unpacking corporate language, exploring the huge variety of jobs out there.
And then digging into the whole journey of finding work, getting hired, and actually building a successful, growing career.
It really highlights how much goes into our professional lives beyond just the job title.
It really does. Understanding how we talk about work, the strategies for navigating it, the skills needed to thrive.
Yeah.
It's all interconnected. It's this constant defining and redefining of ourselves professionally.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over. Think back to that contrast between Greg and Arthur.
The detail VP versus the Top Gun pilot.
Exactly. How much of defining our job, our professional identity, is about the actual tasks we perform day to day?
And how much is about the story we choose to tell about it? The language we use, the impression we consciously or unconsciously want to make.
It's something to think about. As you go through your week, maybe reflect on your own job or the one you hope to have. How would you describe it, thinking about not just the words, but the strategy, the intention behind them, like we discussed today?
What story does your job tell? And what's the impression you really want to leave?
Food for thought. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.